Now we are going to start the first session. I am requesting to Anwar Hussain, Assistant Professor, Nagar College, to introduce the chair of this session. Over to you, Anwar. Anwar? Anwar, are you audible? Anwar, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Start the session.
Thank you, Tania. Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. A very warm welcome to the chairperson of this session, Dr. Mursed Alam, and all the participants. Now, I would very briefly introduce the chairperson. Dr. Mursed Alam is an assistant professor of the Department of English, Gour College. His areas of research include subaltern studies, Islamic traditions in South Asia, and Bengali Muslim literary and cultural history. He is the managing editor of Kairos, a journal of critical symposium. Thank you, Muhammad Mursed Alam, and thanks to all the participants. Over to you, Murshed. Murshed, please.
Thank you, Besh, and good morning to everybody from Edinburgh. There has been a mismanagement of from my side because there are huge time differences and it's just morning here. So I apologize for the delay in joining the session. But as it is, let us begin this first session. And we have here a set of 3 different but very interesting papers. Hassan, would you like to introduce the paper presenters, or how should we go? Or should I invite them to share their views?
You should start.
Yeah.
You should start one by one. You can.
Okay. Okay. So we have our first speaker from my own district, someone from whom I have learned a lot and whom I respect a lot. And he has been at the forefront of, a kind of cultural movement, we can say, in Malda district, in recording the narratives, the language of the Shershabadia community, and we owe a lot to him, and it is a big opportunity to hear from him about the Shershabadia community. So I invite Dr. Abdul Wahab to please share his views.
Respected conveners, resource persons, and participants, especially the chair of this first session. Without going in other words, I am directly entering into the topic. My topic is a study of the Shershabadia identity formation during the colonial period in the light of the contemporary census reports, statistical accounts, and settlement reports. The Shershabadia Muslims is a major ethnic group in the central Bengal or Gour Bongo. They predominantly live in the districts of Malda and Murshidabad of West Bengal. They have a good percentage in the districts of the Dakshin Dinajpur and Uttar Dinajpur. The Muraroi and Nolhati blocks of Birbhum are also inhabited by this community. They live in some Gram Panchayats in Siliguri subdivision of Darjeeling district, as well as Murshidabad attached villages of Nadia and Bardwan districts. They are found also in Jharkhand districts of Pakur, Sahibganj, Bihar districts of Katiyar, Purnia, Kishanganj, and Araria. No record before the British Raj can be found to trace the ethnic name of the Shershabadia identity. Therefore, the credit to highlight this ethnic community goes to the British colonial officers come writers. The census reports, statistical accounts, district gazetteers, and settlement reports are major tools of the information regarding the ethnic identity formation of the peoples, especially the Shershabadia people. One of the best defined communities in these records is the Shershabadia that can be studied using such tools. For instance, the fourth census report of Bengal, which was held in 1901, that is the first year of the 20th century under the British colonial rule, describes the Shershabadia Muslims along with the Darbhanga Sheikhs as two endogamous communities under the divisions of Sheikh Muslims of Malda district. It suggests also the etymology of these ethnic names, which originated from the place name or names of Shershabad as well as Darbhanga, respectively, by adding the Hindustani suffix ya. The earlier version of the place name Shershabad is Shershabad, as is found in the original Persian script in Ain Akbari, which was a Jawar or division as well as a Mahal of Lakhnauti Sarkar of Gour. It was reduced to a mere Pargana during the Nawabi and British period. That the name of the Shershabadia identity is linked to the place name Shershabad has been first noted in the Malda district gazetteer by G. E. Lambourne in 1918 and later on in the Survey and Settlement Report of Malda district by M. O. Carter in 1938. Both Lambourne and Carter were the British colonial officers engaged in Malda district. They define the origin of the name Shershabadia in the context of their migration from the parts of the Shershabad Pargana of Murshidabad district on the west bank of the Ganges and the parts of the same Pargana in the Sibgonj police station of the undivided Bengal on the eastern bank of the Ganges. Lambourne and Carter noted the chief cause of Shershabadia migration as the erosion of large portions of land as a result of the changes in the courses of the Ganges. Anyway, the Shershabadias migrated to as north as the Tarai region of Nepal via North Bengal and northeastern Bihar during the British period. Later on, the 7th census report of 1931 refers to the Shershabadia community for their settlements in some parts of Dinajpur district, especially in the Balurghat and Raiganj divisions. The 8th census in 1941 was not properly conducted because of the Second World War, so the accounts of the ethnic identities cannot be expected from this disturbed census. However, the post-partition census of 1951 gave a bigger space to the Shershabadia identity with reference to Malda, Murshidabad, and West Dinajpur districts. The above cited accounts and reports describe the basic professional element of the Shershabadia identity as good cultivators. For instance, M. O. Carter has compared the Shershabadia cultivators to the Punjabi cultivators contributing to the field of agriculture. Though many Shershabadias have been described as engaged in other trades, boating, fishing, etc. Anthropological aspect of the Shershabadia identity has been suggested by G. E. Lambourne that their good, strong physique may be due to their origin to the medieval heroic people, that is the dynasties of Gour and Pandua. This theory has been supported by W. Hunter in the statistical accounts of Malda in 1876. But both of them opined that the healthy weather of the Gangetic shores and alluvial lands contribute to their good health as well as less mortality rate. M.O. Carter first added two other popular theories of their origin, that is, the defeated armies of Shershah and the surrendered Maratha Borghese at the time of Nawab Alivardi Khan. The linguistic identity, which is the central element of the Shershabadi identity, has been first noted by M.O. Carter. He noted the peculiar and unique intonation of the Shershabadia language, which gives the satirical vein to the folk theatre of Gambhira and Alka. Shershabadia language is known also as Maldaya and Jongipuri. This common language has given a binding force to different subgroups of the Shershabadia people across the boundaries and borders of districts and states. From the above discussion, we may conclude that the Shershabadia people are the Bhumiputras or natives of Bengal, Bihar, and Jharkhand. They have their own distinct ethnicity and culture. The British colonial texts give us the glimpses how the Shershabadia identity, like many other ethnic identities, were formed during the British Raj, and how these ethnic identities were given space in these colonial texts. This study is relevant at this time because the identity politics that led to the late 20th century movements to enlist the Muslim peoples as OBCs. After the publication of the Sachar Committee, the movements for reservation led to 10% reservation of the Muslims as OBCA. In recent times, the caste census of Bihar under the there was a call, so it was disturbed. Anyway, I hope you are hearing. In recent times, the caste census of Bihar under the Nitish government has given the scope of caste census on the basis of the ethnic identities in West Bengal as well as India as a whole. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all for listening patiently to my paper.
Thank you, Dr. Wahab, for your presentation. This is a very... Hello. Thank you, Dr. Wahab, for your presentation. This is a very interesting and interesting topic, and that has its implications, social, political, as well as cultural implications for Bengal. And I hope some of you might have questions. So we will be taking the questions after the presentations are over. So now I invite Dr. MD Abdus Selim to share his thoughts.
Respected Chair, Honorable Resource Person, Conveners, Organizers, and Participants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A very good afternoon to all of you. The topic of my paper is Revisiting Colonial Bengal, a study of the writings of Bengali Muslim women writers with a special reference to Begum Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain. So without wasting time, let me begin my paper. Though women have played a crucial role in Indian society, they have received comparatively little importance from scholars and historians. Women of the 19th and 20th centuries, far from the power structure, were basically confined to the Andar Mahal without education and deprived of other rights, and can be well categorized as subalterns, as Partha Chatterjee precisely maintains that the term subaltern indicates the man, I quote from Partha Chatterjee, the man, the in the public domain. However, from the 1920s, Bengali Muslim women from middle class background could not be totally marginalized anymore. The principal medium of their views was their writings. Few scholars like Mohua Sarkar and Sonia Amin have highlighted on the endeavor of the Muslim Bengali women to ameliorate their place in the 20th century, but larger number of literature foregrounds the procedure of liberation of Hindu Bengali women of the period. This paper therefore attempts to explore the writings of the Muslim women in colonial Bengal, through which they created their own identity. This study also endeavors to look into the complexities and multifariousness in the life and writings of the Bengali Muslim women writers, with a special reference to Begum Rokeya.
Mushidda, are you there? Nothing is audible from this.
I am there, but I cannot hear anything.
Actually, he left this meeting. I don't know, maybe network issue. So we can proceed for next, or you can wait. What we do?
Would it be right to break in the middle of a talk? Let's wait if he can join back and
Okay.
yeah. Yes, please. Someone has raised his or her hand. So if you want to say anything, please. Can anybody please check with the speaker whether he can join back, or should we proceed with the next paper? Okay, I think we should go for the next paper, and if Dr. Selim joins us later, he can complete his presentation, or he can summarize the main points of his deliberation. So now we move on to our third and final speaker of the session, who is Rabiul Islam Sheikh, and he would be talking about the economic condition of the Nadia district in the colonial period. I invite Rabiul Islam Sheikh to please share his views.
হ্যালো, শোনা যাচ্ছে?
Yes, you are audible. বলুন। হ্যাঁ,
থ্যাংক ইউ। সকলকে ধন্যবাদ, অর্গানাইজিং কমিটি এবং চেয়ারপারসন এবং উপস্থিত সকলকে ধন্যবাদ। আমার পেপার যেটা হচ্ছে উপনিবেশিক পর্বে পশ্চিমবঙ্গের নদিয়া জেলার মুসলিমদের অর্থনৈতিক অবস্থা। এখানে যেটা আমি পেপারে আমি ডাইরেক্ট পেপারেই চলে যাচ্ছি, যে প্রথমে আমি বলতে গেলে মুসলিম কারা বা কে মুসলিম, আমি একটু বলতে চাই যে সমস্ত মানুষ কোরআন হাদিসকে মানে এবং শেষ রসুল অর্থাৎ হযরত মুহাম্মদের তার আহ নিয়ম নীতি মেনে চলে, তারাই আমরা মুসলিম খুব সাধারণভাবে জানি। এবং ইসলাম ধর্মের পাঁচটা, প্রত্যেকেই জানি ইসলাম ধর্মের পাঁচটা নীতি, যেটা কলেমা, নামাজ, রোজা, জাকাত, হজ্জ, এই পাঁচটাকে অনুসরণ করে চলবে, তারাই মুসলিম। এবার মুসলিমের কে আহ, কতটা মেনে চলবে সেটা আমি এখানে আলোচনা করছি না। দ্বিতীয় যেটা হচ্ছে, পৃথিবীতে মুসলিম বা ইসলামের আবির্ভাব পৃথিবীতে আমরা জানি হযরত আদম আলাইহিসসালামের হাত ধরে আসছে। এবং আমরা অনেকেই ভুল করি যে সাধারণত সচরাচর দেখতে পাই আমাদের জীবনেও, যে ইসলামের প্রবর্তক হিসাবে আমরা কিন্তু পেয়ে থাকি হযরত মুহাম্মদ। হযরত মুহাম্মদ অবশ্যই শেষ নবী এবং শেষ রসূল, যার হাতে আল্লাহ তাআলা কোরআন নাজিল করেছিলেন। এবং তার তার প্রধান উদ্দেশ্যই ছিল ইসলামকে গাইড করা, ইসলামকে ঠিক পথে পরিচালিত করা পরবর্তীতে তার না থাকা অবস্থায় পৃথিবীতে। কিন্তু এবার ভারতে কবে ইসলাম বা মুসলিমের প্রবেশ ঘটছে? 712 সালে মোহাম্মদ বিন কাসিমের নেতৃত্বে আরব দেশের এবং সিন্ধু মুলতান হয়ে ভারতে প্রবেশ করছে, এবং মোহাম্মদ বিন কাসিম প্রথম মসজিদ স্থাপন করছেন ভারতবর্ষে। এরপরে দীর্ঘ 1202 সাল অব্দি সারা ভারতে বিস্তার ঘটছে, এবং 1204 সালে যেটা পশ্চিমবঙ্গের নদিয়া, বর্তমান পশ্চিমবঙ্গ এবং তৎকালীন সময় বাংলায় প্রবেশ করছে ইখতিয়ার উদ্দিন মোহাম্মদ বিন বখতিয়ার খলজির হাত ধরে। এবং তিনি নবদ্বীপের সেন বংশের রাজা লক্ষণ সেনকে পরাজিত করে বিভিন্ন বইয়ে বিভিন্ন রকম সৈন্য সংখ্যা দিচ্ছে, তিনি পরাজিত করে সেখানে দখল করছেন, এবং তারপরে বাংলায় মুসলিমের বিস্তার হচ্ছে। এবং 1204 থেকে 1757 পলাশী যুদ্ধ পর্যন্ত প্রায় 550 বৎসর প্রাক ব্রিটিশ পর্বে পশ্চিমবঙ্গ তথা নদিয়া জেলা মুসলিমের বিস্তার ঘটছে। এবং এই সময় মুসলিমদের অর্থনৈতিক অবস্থাকে হিন্দু কমিউনিটি থেকে আলাদা করা খুবই মুশকিল, কেননা তৎকালীন সময়ে যে মুসলিম ছিল পশ্চিমবঙ্গ তথা বাংলায়, সেই মুসলিম অধিকাংশই কনভার্টেড মুসলিম এবং বিদেশ থেকে আগন্তুক মুসলিম। এর ফলে মুসলিম কমিউনিটির কালচার, অর্থনৈতিক অবস্থা সমস্ত কিছু হিন্দু এবং মুসলিমের মধ্যে অনেকটা মিক্স ছিল। সেটাকে পুরোপুরি পৃথক করা, যেটা আমরা স্বাধীনতার আগে যেটা আমরা দেখি যে দুটোকে জিন্না আলী জিন্না তারা আলাদা পৃথক দ্বিজাতির তত্ত্ব খাড়া করছে, পৃথক পৃথক করছে, ততটা পৃথক করা তাদের অর্থনীতি, সংস্কৃতি, কালচার অনেকটা মিশিয়ে ছিল। এবং এই টাইমে অর্থনীতি বলতে গেলে সেই কৃষিকাজ, ছোটখাটো যে হস্তশিল্প, এর উপরে ভিত্তি করেই তাদের এই 500 বছর প্রাক ব্রিটিশ। কিন্তু ঔপনিবেশিক পর্বে যেটা শুরু হচ্ছে পলাশীর যুদ্ধ তথা এবং দ্বিতীয় বাহাদুর শাহ 1765 সালে দেওয়ানি লাভের পর থেকে 1947 পর্যন্ত, 1947 সাল পর্যন্ত, সেখানে যে ডেটা, সে ডেটাতে কত লোক এই প্রাক ব্রিটিশ পর্বে তো তথ্য ঠিকঠাক কত পার্সেন্ট মুসলিম কত কি ছিল সেটা পাওয়া খুব মুশকিল। কিন্তু ঔপনিবেশিক পর্বে যেটা অর্থনৈতিক দিক থেকে দেখতে গেলে, ঔপনিবেশিক পর্বেও এখানে মুসলিমদের শিক্ষার দিক দিয়ে পিছিয়ে ছিল। ইংরেজি শিক্ষা সেখানে পিছিয়ে। সাধারণভাবে গ্রামের দিকে বসবাস, ছোটখাটো যে শহরগুলো ছিল, সে শহরগুলোই মুসলিমদের আনাগোনা কম ছিল। স্বাভাবিক অর্থনৈতিক অবস্থা দেখতে গেলে বেশ কিছু ইন্ডিকেটর আমরা যদি দেখি, স্বাস্থ্য, শিক্ষা, ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য, সেখানে অনেকটাই মুসলিম কমিউনিটি পিছিয়ে ছিল এবং মুসলিম কমিউনিটিকে ব্রিটিশ পর্বে অনেকটাই হিন্দু কমিউনিটি থেকে ডিপ্রাইভড করেছিল। এবং আমরা জানি ব্রিটিশ পর্বে হিন্দু এবং মুসলিমের মধ্যে দুটো ডিভাইড করে রেখেছিল শাসন ব্যবস্থার সুবিধার্থে, শোষণের সুবিধার্থে। অর্থনৈতিক ক্ষেত্রে সম্পূর্ণরূপে কৃষি, প্রায় 85% মুসলিম তারা কৃষির সঙ্গেই যুক্ত ছিল। কৃষিকাজ, বিভিন্ন বেশ কিছু সুতি শিল্প, তখনকার মসলিন, ঢাকার মসলিন, তোলা শিল্প, এর মাধ্যমেই তারা জীবিকায়। এই অর্থনৈতিক ক্ষেত্রে মুসলিম কমিউনিটির এই সমস্ত দিকগুলো, সেক্ষেত্রে চাকরির পরিমাণ খুব কম ছিল, শিক্ষার পরিমাণ কম ছিল। এই ছিল মুসলিমদের প্রকৃত অবস্থা। এটুকুই। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Can anybody kindly confirm to me whether Dr. Selim is back or not?
No, he's not back yet.
So what should we do then? Okay, so we had a set of 3 different, but as I already said, interesting papers, and although their focus is different, but what unites the 3 papers, we can say, is first their regional focus, because Dr. Wahab has focused on the Shershabadia community of Malda district, and Mr. Rabiul has talked about the economic condition of the Muslim community in the colonial period. So there is a regional focus and district level focus, and the other aspect that we can say that unites the 3 papers of this session is their focus on what we can say the margins within the margins. I mean, the focus on the Muslim, on the women, Bengali Muslim women, and as well as those who are less explored in the academic literature on Bengal and Bengali Muslims, such as the Shershabadia community and the economic condition of Nadia district. So, and what I would like to say is that the more research that is done on on the conditions of the Muslim community at the district level, I mean, there are 4 or 5 districts where Muslims are in a huge there is a huge number of the Muslims in those districts. So if there are more and more scholarly work done on them, I think that will help in exploring the condition of the Muslim community in Bengal, and it will also change the discourse about about Bengali society, culture, as well as the condition of the Muslims there. So I welcome such interventions from Dr. Wahab, who has been, as I have already said, at the forefront of a sort of cultural movement. He is not only, he has tried to bring together the scholars and academicians and others from the Malda district, and he is trying to record the language that is called the Shershabadia language and its various kinds of cultural manifestations like poetry. He himself is a poet, and stories. He also encourages the writers from this community to share their writing, and he is trying to in a way not only to record the culture on the language. He is doing something important in preserving as well as what should I say? The formation of the self of the Shershabadia community in Bengal. Then Nadia district has been one of the important districts, and there should be more focus on Nadia, because those of you who have read on the partisan violence, you will see that Nadia district was at the forefront, because there had been a lot of migration of people from Nadia district to Bangladesh, and that is still under researched. So I would invite Mr. Rabiul Sheikh, Islam Shaikh, to carry on his research so that we get to know more about it. I'm sorry we could not listen to Dr. Selim completely, but his focus is also on the Bengali Muslim writers, especially on Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain. And there is a kind of unease I have seen among the Bengali Muslims in terms of Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain. I mean, they have not yet properly grappled with the legacy of Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain. On the one hand, there is a celebration of her, birth anniversary, but on the other hand, I can hear objections to her views on patriarchy among the Bengali Muslim community, and some of her views on Islam itself. So the more research is done on her, I think the more helpful that is. So with these initial comments, I invite questions from the audience on the papers presented. Is there any question? Samia? Okay, there is no question in the question box, chat box.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. I was perhaps disconnected due to network problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was I audible for the?
Yeah, you are now audible. Do you
So
want
should
to
I repeat my paper?
Do we have time for that, Samia?
Yes.
Okay. Then what you can do, Dr. Selim, you can just briefly focus on the main points of your presentation. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. So let me resume. I will just highlight on the main points. What I tried to show in my paper, that first of all, the condition of women in Indian society, it was deplorable. And as for if we have a comparative degree of marginalization towards the Muslim women, we can say that the Muslim women, they were marginalized to a greater degree when compared to the Hindu women. And basically, for Bengali Muslim women, their education was restricted. They were almost confined to the Andar Mahal. Then the next point which I tried to highlight was that the place of education, the place of women in Islam. In Islam, the status of women, it's a topic very much relevant today because of the divergence of cultural practices in the Muslim world from an Islamic viewpoint, and because of the mistaken conception in the West that Islam subdues women. Now, these prejudices confuse Islam with the cultural customs, disregarding the fact that since the 7th century, Islam has provided women with the most advanced rights. Then I refer to the famous hadith, acquisition of knowledge is binding on all Muslims. It makes quite clear that education in Islam is equally significant for both male and women. There are also well-specified verses in the Holy Quran, which shows that education is obligatory for both men and women. However, though in Islam, education was compulsory for both men and women, the subsequent periods of Islam show that the woman's status and role that has been altered. While this changed, they are not confirmed with the Holy Quran and Sunnah. So what is the reason behind these types of changes? Largely, it is according to the prevalent norms of the culture, and also because of the deliberate endeavor of European thinkers who tried to mold the syllabus in such a way that the Quranic and Islamic teachings, educations appear to be simply a conglomerate of rituals and recitations, which is only used to get blessings. We know that Islam is a complete code of life. It has economic, political, social, familial, all the aspects, all the guides are there. But the syllabus was framed in such a way that it appeared just a kind of a traditional religion. So thus, Islam's influence is sometimes mistaken with conservative laws for accession of education and family attitudes imposed by the state in the name of Islam. Thus, these conservative norms restrict especially Muslim women getting enrolled in educational institutes. Now, if we look into the Bengali Muslim women's educational scenario in the colonial period, we see that women had a very outclassed societal position, and for the majority of Muslim women, home was their only space. The Bengali Muslim women, they received basic elementary education, if any, inside a rigorous seclusion of the Andar Mahal. The Quran and the Nasihat Namas, which were written in Arabic and Urdu, of course, had to be memorized and recited by the Muslim women for obtaining religious excellence, although the meaning was not explained in most cases. And here I want to comment that the situation remains almost the same even for today. The custom of rigorous porda was an essential impediment for the female education, and Oborod denied Bengali Muslim girls the access to education. Nevertheless, by the 1870s, whether in practice or not, a segment of the enlightened, urbanized Muslim elite of Bengal acknowledged the positive effects of women education. After this, I refer to some Muslim edited papers like Musalman, Nabonur, Muhammadi, Al-Islam, Shadhana, Bulbul, and Swagat, which not only endorsed female education, but prepared a platform for the women writers as well. As for example, Syed Imdad Ali in Nabonur exhorted the Pordanashin women to come out of their homes and to get themselves enlightened for the comprehensive improvement of the Muslim society. And the poet Qazi Nazrul Islam in his poem Nari motivated Muslim women to combat against the social inequality and purda. He pointed out that as Islam preserves women's right to education, it was unfair to deprive them of this specific right. Now, with the advancement of such education in Bengali Muslim community, a host of new women emerged in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Then I made a kind of summary of the Bengali Muslim women's writers. I refer to Rahimunnisa's Padmavati Puthi, which is the first ever written work of Bengali Muslim women in the late medieval Bengal. Then I mentioned Tahir-Nisa, who raised few legitimate points about education and social rights of women in the journal Bama Bodhini Patrika. Then I mentioned the credit of being the first Bengali Muslim woman in modern times to write the full-length book goes to Nawab Faizun Nisa Chaudhurani, who wrote Roob Jalal, which is a semi-autobiography. After that, I put emphasis on the writings of Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain, who is the trailblazer of female emancipation and who is remarkably hailed as the first Muslim woman writer of modern times. As an implemental feminist thinker, she urges that economical empowerment with education can pave the way for social justice and capability development. Born and brought up in an elite family, her father was very restrictive of her movement outside home. However, her elder brother and sister were supportive of her education and learning, and after her marriage, her husband Syed Sakhawat Hossain endorsed her creative thinking openly, and under her encouragement, Rokeya started writing about the thoughts on societal issues of womanhood and women's debasement. After that, I refer to Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain's writings, namely Striyatir, Avanati, Ardhangini, Shugrihini, Griho, Burka, Sultana Stream, Vrata Bhogini, Aborod Bashini, Padmarag, Narir Odhikar, and so on. Her literary vocation began in 1901 with her essay Pipasa, which appeared in Nababprabha. Her next piece, Olonkar Na Badge of Slavery, which was published in 1903. It was a terrible indictment of gender inequality in which she compares the gift of jewelry from a husband to his wife as chains of bondage. Her novel Padmarag is a narration of life in Tarini Bhavan, a sanctuary where women of all creeds have found refuge and live a life of self-esteem. Rokeya's essays such as Istriyati, Ramanati, and Ardhangini were regarded as radical feminist writings in which Rokeya, like Mary Wollstonecraft, identified women's negligence towards education as the main source of misery, making them weak and wretched. Now, in her book, Aborod Bashini, she gave instances to Aborod and Purda, describing Purda, which allows to sustain their propriety, but Aborod as an uttermost variety of reclusiveness, which she treated wholly non-Islamic. Like Nussbaum, Rokeya exhorted that subjugation of womenfolk is not a willful act of individual, but the product of social construction. She ignored the so-called male dissemination of rigorous Purda. And in her essay, Vrata Bhogini, she powerfully suggested that, I quote, removal of that artificial restriction, keeping women confined to homes will lead to unrestricted spread of education among women. In Shugrihini, she identifies how women become the day-to-day utensils of patriarchal society. In Griho, Rokeya exemplifies how although a woman may live in a household and continue most of the labor necessary for its sustenance, the home does not belong to her. In the remarkable fantasy, Sultana's Dream, Rokeya gave full expression of her imagination by portraying a utopian ladyland, a domain where women assume the public role and men stayed indoors. A woman dreaming of dominion of women over men introduced us to the female culture and radical feminist thought like that of Kate Millett. Rokeya, like Millett, asserted that the penultimate solution to the patriarchal infliction of femininity and male control must be eradicated with economic empowerment and education for women to be liberated. Besides publishing articles and books, Rokeya also took to spread the gospel of education among the Muslim girls, first at Bhagalpur in 1909, and by 1911 she moved to Kolkata and established a school, the Sakhawat Memorial Girls School. She also established the Anjumani Khawatin Islam in 1916 and tried to create a healthier space for women in the inner as well as outer world through the genuine endeavor. As for other Bengali Muslim women writers, the life of Begum Samsunar Mahmud, the worthy successor of Rokeya, also elaborates the inexorable social portrayal of educational retardation of women in the Bengali Muslim community. Her book Punnamoyi called for higher education for Bengali Muslim women and termination of burqa. In Nari Jagaran, Samsunar deplores the seclusion and literary ignorance of Muslim women. She wrote the biography of Begum Rokeya as Rokeya Jivani in a magazine called Bulbul, which also appraised greater consciousness about education and inspiration to the Muslim women. Fajilatun Nisa wrote in Swagat, and in Muslim Nari Shikhar Proyaniyata, she wrote like her precursors about the value of educating women. Sufia Kamal wrote more than 207 poems, which were integrated into books named Shajer Maya, Mayar Kajol, Mono Jibon, Udatta Prithivi, and Dewan. Through her writings, she focuses on women's rights and ability to take decisions, which can only come through education. Azizunnisa Khatun was plausibly the first Muslim woman whose poem Hamd Ishar Prashasti was first published in a Muslim-edited periodical called Islam Procharo. She asks for women's liberation and female education, which the backward Muslim society desperately required. Bibi Khairunisa Khatun published an essay, Amader Shikkar Antorai, in Nabanur, in which she pleaded for female education. And Akhtar Mahal Sayeda Khatun depicted the pains and sorrows of the Aborod Bashini living secluded in Muslim society through her literary works. Now, to conclude, it can be said that Muslim women education in colonial Bengal has undergone through all phases like absolute apathy, stolidity, criticism, and ridicule, piecemeal acceptance and recognition. From the conventional religious education, that is essentially the reading of Quran, of course without comprehension, to secondary and higher education, the prejudice against Muslim women pursuing institutionalized education was bit by bit enfeebling. And by the 1930s, Bengali Muslim women were surely poised on the verge of some measure of economic independence. Rokeya, along with her followers, kept on emphasizing on the woman's right in the form of education, freedom, marriage, divorce, property rights, and so on. Their writings bear some similarity with Western feminist philosophers like Simone de Beauvoir, who, in The Second Sex, stated, I quote, "Woman may fail to lay claim to the status of subject because she lacks definite resources and because she is often very well pleased with her role as the other." The writings of these Bengali Muslim women writers were liberal and sometimes bold and courageous against the oppression of patriarchy and took a step to change the mindset of the contemporary society towards women. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selim. So many important female voices from colonial Bengal. The more we talk about them, the more it will break the stereotype about the Bengali Muslim community. Very few know that there had been such important writers like Sufia Kamal to Fazlitun Nesa to Rokeya. We know a bit about Rokeya, but not about the other writers. So I thank you for for your work on those underexplored voices from colonial Bengal. Recently, there are 4 volumes published by one of the members of BASE, his Saifullah Samim. He has edited 4 volumes of writings by the Bengali Muslim women writers from the colonial period. So those of you who are interested, you may consult those volumes, and you will see that the plethora of voices coming out from the Bengali Muslim women, so that is really important. And I thank you, Dr. Selim, for highlighting those voices from colonial Bengal. Now, if we have any question addressed to any of the speakers, I don't see any question in the chat box. So if anybody has any question, any comment, brief comment, you may please, unmute yourself and, address the question directly to the speaker. Since we do not have any question, let me take the privilege of, starting the discussion. May I request Dr. Wahab to say a few words about what he and his organization is doing to bring the Shershabadia community to the forefront, their language, their culture, material culture as well as literary culture. So this is just to begin the discussion, and others may join later on with their questions. Dr. Wahab.
আমি বাংলাতেই বলছি। শেরশাবাদিয়া বিকাশ পরিষদ একটা অর্গানাইজেশন যেটা এখন কাজ করছে 2020 সাল থেকে। মূলত নর্থ বেঙ্গলে যে দুটো মুখ্য কমিউনিটি, একটা হচ্ছে নস্য শেখ, যেই নস্য শেখ কমিউনিটির জন্য ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল গভর্নমেন্ট নস্য শেখ ডেভেলপমেন্ট অ্যান্ড কালচারাল বোর্ড তৈরি করেছে। নস্য শেখ কমিউনিটির ভাষা যেহেতু রাজবংশী এবং বা কামতাপুরী, আর সেখানেও কামতাপুরী ভাষা, যেটা একটা সময় বাংলা ভাষার একটা ডায়ালেক্ট বলা হতো, সেটাও কিন্তু মানে রিকগনাইজড হয়েছে একটা ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট ভাষা হিসাবে। তো এর পিছনে একটা কালচারাল এবং সোশ্যাল মুভমেন্ট, অর্গানাইজেশনাল মুভমেন্ট রয়েছে। তো শেরশাবাদিয়া বিকাশ পরিষদও সেই টার্গেটটাকে সামনে রেখে কাজ করছে, বিশেষ করে যাতে করে লিঙ্গুইস্টিক আইডেন্টিটিটা মানে ওয়ান অফ দ্য 12 ডায়ালেক্টস অ্যাকর্ডিং টু প্রভাত রঞ্জন সরকার। তো যে শেরশাবাদিয়া ভাষাটা না রাঢ়ী না বরেন্দ্রী, বরং এই রিজিয়নটা একটা স্বতন্ত্র রিজিয়ন, এবং এই কামতাপুরী বা রাজবংশী ভাষাটা যেহেতু উত্তরে শেরশাবাদিয়া রিজিয়নের, পূর্ব দিকে বরেন্দ্রী এবং পশ্চিম এবং দক্ষিণ পশ্চিমে রয়েছে রাঢ়ী, আর বিহারি ভাষাগুলো রয়েছে ওয়েস্টার্ন বর্ডারে আর কি। এবং প্রভাত রঞ্জন সরকার এটাও বলেছেন যে যে বিহারি ভাষা অঙ্গিকা, তার সঙ্গে শেরশাবাদিয়া ভাষার একটা মিশ্রণের ফলে কিন্তু খোট্টা ভাষার, উত্তরী খোট্টা ভাষা যেটা নর্দার্ন খোট্টা ভাষা, সেটার ক্রিয়েশন হয়েছে। সুতরাং অনেকগুলো আসপেক্টস আছে শেরশাবাদিয়া ভাষার স্টাডির ক্ষেত্রে। মানে দ্য নেগোসিয়েশনস অফ শেরশাবাদিয়া ভাষা উইথ দ্য নেবারিং ডায়ালেক্টস অ্যান্ড ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজেস, এই ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট স্টাডির ক্ষেত্রে। শেরশাবাদের বিকাশ পরিষদ পত্রিকা বের করে, শেরশাবাদের কাগজ, আর একটা পত্রিকা বের হয় ইসলামপুর উত্তর দিনাজপুর থেকে, মহৎ পত্রিকা। তো যাক, তারা মানে একসঙ্গে আমরা কোলাবোরেশনে চেষ্টা করছি জিনিসগুলোকে তুলে ধরার জন্য। সেই সঙ্গে মানে শেরশাবাদিয়া কমিউনিটির মধ্যে একটা কনসাসনেস, আইডেন্টিটি কনসাসনেস। কারণ হলো যে এদের মধ্যে বিশেষ করে ইলিটারেট বা অশিক্ষিত সেকশন যারা, তারা কিন্তু মানে উত্তরবঙ্গের ভাটিয়া কমিউনিটি, যেটা আলাদা কমিউনিটি, তার সঙ্গে কিন্তু একাকার করে দিয়ে, বিশেষ করে উত্তর দিনাজপুরের কিছু শেরশাবাদিয়া, তারা ভুল করে নিজেদের আইডেন্টিটি ভাটিয়া বলে। তো এই ভাটিয়া আইডেন্টিটিটাও কিন্তু মানে যে সেপারেট অন্যান্য, তো কাস্ট সেন্সাসের ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু এটা একটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ম্যাটার করবে আর কি। ভুল করে যদি তারা নিজেদের ভাটিয়া কমিউনিটি বলে, তাহলে কিন্তু দেখা হলো যে এটা একটা আলাদা কমিউনিটির সঙ্গে তারা অ্যাসোসিয়েট করে ফেলছে। সুতরাং সোশ্যাল অ্যাক্টিভিজমের ব্যাপারটা চলে আসে এই আমাদের অর্গানাইজেশনাল একটা রেসপন্সিবিলিটির মধ্যে। বিশেষ করে কাস্ট বেসড যে সেন্সাস, যেটার জন্য বর্তমানে সামনে লোকসভাকে কেন্দ্র করে যে কংগ্রেস নেতৃত্ব বলছে যে আমরা অল ইন্ডিয়াতে কাস্ট সেন্সাস করব। তো এইসব ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু আমাদের এই অর্গানাইজেশনাল অ্যাক্টিভিটিটা কিন্তু বাড়াতে হবে। তো সে যাও বিভিন্ন দিক আছে এগুলোর, মুর্শিদাবাদ, মালদা, উত্তর দিনাজপুর, বেশ করে বিশেষ করে আমাদের ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গলে। তো এটুকুই বলার ছিল আপডেট আর কি। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you for sharing your ideas. Any question, anybody? You may address to any of the speakers. I don't think there is any question, so I congratulate our three speakers for initiating the discussion on the Bengali Muslim community in the colonial period, and I think this is a good beginning for the two-day conference. So I thank you and congratulate you once again, and have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Mursed Alam, and all three participants for your active engagement and insightful contributions in our first session. So please give me a time to off the recording of this session and start the new one. Thank you.